and say, Jesus Christ is the way. Amen. Thank you. This is what I'm talking about, distraction. All the things going on around us. We can never forget this, that Jesus Christ, the right Jesus, is the way. You have to paraphrase yourself and explain yourself everything you do. When I say right, I don't mean politically right. The Jesus who loves everybody and makes room for the people that folks throw out. That Jesus is the way. For those of you who think preaching is easy, people think all you have to do is get up there and talk. Let me help you. Preaching, as much as preachers talk, it's more about the preacher's ability to listen. I had a sermon I announced on Wednesday in prayer meeting, and that's going to be the Easter Sunday sermon, the first preacher. And I must have gotten my signals crossed because I kept trying to dig into that, and I heard another voice. Yeah, but it's Lent, and we got to get ready. No. Exodus. But I got to get the people ready for Exodus. See, you want to talk, but you're not listening. Exodus. And then for the last 3 days, I couldn't get out of Exodus. So now, until the Lord says so, we're going to dig into the book of Exodus. If I'm preaching, I'm going to be talking about what? All right. I feel led to walk with you through this journey of freedom. Given our times, it's time we dig in to Exodus. I'm not starting at the beginning. We may get back there in some of the cinematic representations and series you watch on TV. They'll give you what's going on in the present, and then they'll have a flashback, right? There may be some flashbacks later, but I want to dig in this part right here because this is where we are. The writer of this 13th chapter, this is after they have been let go of by Pharaoh in Egypt. In fact, this is not the road to freedom. It's the road of freedom. Can I help you right there? I think I'm going to preach today. The first thing you have to accept to get to freedom is to accept that you are already free.
Right. That's it.
See, some of us, I heard somebody in the public discourse call some folks this past week runaway slaves. Those are not runaway slaves, those are run-to slaves. You know what I mean by that? You are already free. And you run into somebody to beg them to shackle you again. This is not the road to freedom. I want you to say this. I want you to put this in a universe. Say, I am already free. The person next to you didn't believe that. Turn to that person and say, I am already free. Now, don't get stingy. Keep it to yourself. Turn to the person on the other side and say, you are already free. Let's give God a praise for that right now. Already free. They had already, by the time we get to the 13th chapter, they had already been through a lot. Displaced, without land, 400 years without land and only valued for free labor. They were given the scraps and the waste to make for food, but they made do. Families were destroyed by this system of brutality of men and abuse of women. Men dehumanized, women dehumanized, both considered somebody else's property, unable to serve God as they pleased, under the rule of a self-serving leader who surrounded himself with, here's a fancy word for you, sycophants. That means, what do you call those people? Groupies who have no mind, or they're hangers-on. You need bootlickers. Self-serving leaders surrounded by sycophants and all of their synonyms that would do his mindless and evil bidding. All he had to do was say, sick 'em. But if you read the book of Exodus carefully, you will realize that they were under this tyranny because the leader did not know the history of his own country. Preach, Simpson. And he did not know the people who had saved all of them. Exodus begins with this cruel short sentence, and there arose in Egypt a Pharaoh who knew not Joseph. They've been through a lot. They've become scapegoats for everything that was wrong in that country. The leader looked around and started doing a demographic study and said that they were too populous. We are going to have to organize systemically and systematically ways of destroying their legacy and future. Let's kill all the boys. Those that were left were forced to make bricks without straw. They've been through a lot. The only value you had was hard labor. And occasionally they say, why don't you sing us one of those songs? And the only reason why they were around the people in power was because either they were the lower echelon of labor or they entertained them. Bodies beaten, minds and spirits broken. And they didn't ask for this. They spent their time crying. But I'm glad to report to you today, the Bible says that God heard the cries of the Israelite people. And God said, enough is enough. And God said, because of their suffering and their cries have reached up into the highest places of heaven, I can't get no rest because my people are hurting. God said, these are my people, and I will bring them out with a mighty hand. Preach, Simpson. God decided to set them free. They'd been through a lot. Just before the 13th chapter, there's a catalog of 10 plagues. They traveled from place to place. They started setting up rituals of memory so they did not forget who they were nor where they'd come from. They had a festival that was gathered around bread that they didn't have time enough for it to rise. So they ate the unleavened bread. Go ahead, man. They were forced to make bricks without straw. But in the middle of all that, they took the time out to dedicate their firstborn to God. Some of y'all think it's just their children, but the firstborn of all their livestock, they offered it back to God. They were learning how to be faithful with their resources, reminding them that all that we have comes from God. And they gave their best, and they gave their first, both of family and livestock, to God. They set up signs on the hands. So when you looked at your hands, it was a sign of somebody whom the Lord had set free. And they put it up on their foreheads so that you didn't have to wait till you shook the hand. You could see them coming off. They had a mark on their forehead saying, I am already free. God brought us out. But dear friends, this text picks up the journey. They're already free. Let me read it to you again. When the Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them by the way, the land of the Philistines, although that was nearer, for God thought if the people face war, they might change their minds and return to Egypt. Somebody say, run to slaves. So God led the people by the roundabout way of the wilderness bordering the Red Sea. The Israelites went up out of the land of Egypt prepared for battle, and Moses took with him the bones of Joseph, who had required a solemn oath of the Israelites, saying, God will surely come to you, and then you must carry my bones with you from here. And they set out from Succoth and camped in Etham on the edge of the wilderness. And the Lord went in front of them in a pillar of cloud by day to lead them along the way, and a pillar of fire by night to give them light, so that they might travel by day and night. Here's what I want to tell you. Neither the pillar of the cloud nor the pillar of fire by night left its place in front of the people. Now you get the picture. God doesn't send them on the shortest road. The shortest road would have led them into direct confrontation with the Philistines. You don't know about them yet, but in a few books behind, you're going to discover the man Goliath, and when David was ready and God was ready, the Philistines crumbled. But see, when I was growing up, we had a little choir in our church. They were called the Buds of Promise. And those were the young ones, like the ones that sang here. And they sing a little song that said, "The right way may be the long way, but it will sure get you home someday." I heard some into sorrow, some into pain, some into sickness, and some into pain, but the right way may be the wrong way, but it will sure get you. I heard my mother say that she was going to serve God anyway. The right way, preach Simpson, may be the long way. God took them on the roundabout way. Let me help you, because some folks hadn't gotten their freedom feet yet. They just gotten out of freedom. You'll be surprised of what kind of trouble and trauma we get into because of the people who have oppressed us. Want me to tell you something I heard about black church? Preacher asked me a question. Why do people always say no at the church meeting? I'm going to wait a few weeks before we have ours. I want you to forget what I was telling you, but don't. I don't want you to feel like I'm setting you up for something. I promise we'll have one before the church anniversary, but not right away, because you'll say, that Negro tried to set us up. But I want you to think about this. So why do they always say, I said, I have no idea. He said, because some people associate authority with the ability to say no, because that's what white people have done to black people throughout their life here. Help us, God. Some of us say no because our patterns for authority are in saying no because we've been told no so long. Just so you know, later on I discovered a book about how to organize community and do other things, and the title of that book is The Answer to Why is Yes. Now that one I'll let sit a while. But I digress. They could have gone through the land of the Philistines, but then they would have been headed straight for war. They weren't ready yet. Let me say this, as hard as this might be to hear right now, don't you spend all of your energy getting ready to fight right now, because we ain't got our legs under us yet. Some of us will begin to think, well, if we got to fight, we never had to fight when us were slaves. Hear this, friends. The roundabout, that does not mean wait. I'm not saying wait with deliberate speed. I'm saying God knows the timing better than we. And in order for us to know this, and see, some of us we'll get in a fight, and then we'll just concede, and we'll be right back where we were before we even left. So let me help you. So in order for God to let them know, because some of them did have that fighting spirit, some people were tired, some people didn't want to go. Listen, some people don't want to be free. But this is what God did. God let them know that I'm always going to be with you. Listen, church. So set up these two signs: a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire at night. When you get outside, look for the cloud. God will not leave you. God has not left you, even though you don't know exactly where you are right now, even though you're not clear about how you feel, even though you're in the wilderness. Don't get weary. Look for the cloud. God puts a cloud up. I've changed my whole mind about getting depressed on cloudy days. Maybe God's trying to say, on a foggy day, maybe God's trying to say, I'm with you. Don't worry, I got it. A cloud, a pillar of a cloud by day. Sometimes that cloud is a shield from predators who can't get by it. Enemies can't quite make you out in the mist. You can't be assaulted in the fog and they cannot find you. Thank God that he hides my soul. Thank God that those who would want him, and when my enemies came against me to eat of my flesh, they stumbled and fell. Thank God. God didn't have to raise one sword. All God used was a cloud. Shield me and protect me when others are trying to assault my being. God, in the midst of the day, blot out all other things and let me see you leading me with the cloud. And see, you got to know what kind of God you got. Cloud don't do any good at night, huh? Because you are now taken out of the light. And so God said, I'm going to give you a cloud by day and a pillar of fire at night. Oh, come on, somebody. That fire is a warning that although we might be out in the wilderness, we still got some power. Is a warning and a signal to the predators, don't come fooling with us. We are ready to do God's work. The nighttime when people snuck around and did things under the cloak of darkness, they can be seen. Dangers can't hide when the fire is there. The chill of dropping temperatures and howling winds can't hold you, because not only is the fire a light, but it also brings some heat. The warmth of the fire produces heat when when all around things get cold and chilly. The Lord puts a burning inside of me. The light of the fire breaks the monotonousness of the canopy of the night sky. God says, I will be with you day and night. Preach, Simpson. Now let me finish this thing. Then Moses takes with him the bones of Joseph. Joseph had made the generation while he was alive promised them that when you get to the promised land, don't forget about me. And so Moses, he got a cloud by night. He's got a cloud by day, a fire by night. And he's got the bones of the ancestors with him. You don't hear me. Joseph's bones are a reminder that we have been through this before. That this is not our last or first rodeo. The ancestors remind us, the men and the women tell us that God can use us if we're available, that we can have the victory, that they bless us to victory. So we need some tangible memories. Let me suggest this for you. So, right downstairs in Memorial Hall on the stage, 1968, Shirley Chisholm announces her candidacy as the first black and woman presidential campaign right here. Her campaign manager was Wesley MacHolder, who was a political savvy man who knew how to get black folks together. Okay, let me give you a fun fact. What's the only church in Brooklyn that has 3 streets named after members? Okay, you know one, you on it right now. Gardner Taylor, after Gardner Taylor, wait, not Max yet, hold Max a moment, hold Max a moment. Wesley MacHolder, in a later campaign, it might have been during Dave Dinkins' campaign, Wesley MacHolder came here, he was in his 80s, so, and he got baptized here at Concord. A few weeks later, they gave him an honorary doctoral degree, and they named the street after him, Dr. Wesley MacHolder Way. Jot that down. And the third was the bebop king, baddest man, on no offense to anybody who plays the drums right now, but everybody else is traipsing in his shadow, Max Roach. Listen, y'all, we ain't going out here to do something new. And we are going to go into new territory, but we got to take the ancestors with us. You understand what I'm saying? The forebearers who dug down deeply, who prayed that one day that we will do well. And we did well for a little while, but that was our problem because we thought just because you're doing well a little while, you got to remember the long road to freedom is a roundabout through the wilderness. The long road to freedom. Whether or not you want to be on it, we is on it. If you ain't on it, go on back. Hang out with Pharaoh. But I'm going to tell you something. I ain't got to this. I started out, I'll just tell you. Read on in here and you're going to discover we haven't come to the Red Sea yet. But before we get there, we got to remember, in the day, God has a pillar of cloud. Somebody say cloud. At night, God has a pillar of fire. And we carry with us the tangible memories of Exodus, movement of the people. We're going to sing that not today because I want y'all to practice it first. We're not going to offend the ancestors by singing their music like we don't know it. But I guarantee you, before we get out of Exodus, we are going to sing from Prophet Marley. But right now, this is what I'm telling you. We can't go to war right now. We got to get ready. And listen, the way some people are acting, they don't need us for a war. They're going to start one somewhere else.